Hey everybody, so welcome to this video, and this video is mostly about getting a protected list, figuring out the potential protected list for Montreal when the Seattle expansion draft happens. So the Seattles are coming into the league in 2021-2022, and ahead of that they need to find themselves a team and pick a team from, I'm not sure how many players they're allowed, 28 or 29 players, somewhere in that 27, I'm not sure exactly. So some teams won't lose a player, but most teams will lose one player. That's all you're allowed to lose. And so you're allowed to protect. We'll go over that, I guess. Turn the wrong way. Teams are allowed to protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, 1 goalie. Or if you're a team that you generally don't like your defenseman, you can pick to have 8 skaters and 1 goalie protected only. So I don't know what teams would want that, but there's some teams with pretty lousy defense, because I'm assuming it's going to be defense you're not going to take, because otherwise just do it 7-3-1. But I digress. There also, this is important to note, players with 2 or less years of pro experience are not eligible to be taken and do not need to be protected. As far as Montreal goes, players that people are worried about, Cole Caulfield, Ilonen, Brook, Romanov, Paling, Primo, and Suzuki are safe from this. They do not have to be protected. There's not going to be a problem. So if you're worried Nick Suzuki's going to get taken, if they don't protect him, no, they don't have to protect him. So that don't worry if you see Nick Suzuki's not protected. He doesn't have to be. So that's not a problem. So now, July 1st is a time when obviously free agent frenzy, all that kind of stuff. Now, it's not happening this year because the season hasn't finished, and that'll be at a different date. But it is also a time when players who are going to be free agents the following year can sign extensions. RFAs, UFAs, they can sign extensions as of July 1st. And since this is all going on and the season hasn't finished, they also are delayed, but they're not delayed till the end of this season. It just came out actually just before I'm filming that. I'll read it to you. So players with these that are free agents next season, and players that are free agents as of this year, apparently they are allowed to, in 3 days after the league and the board of governors ratify this new agreement that's going on, that they're working on. When that's ratified, 3 days later, these guys are allowed to sign new deals for the following season. So I don't know how that works for free agents this year. If that means that you can sign and you're going to another team and then you're going to go and finish the season with your team now. I don't know how that works, but for players that it's in a year from now, they can sign extensions with their current teams. So that's important to the video. Remember that. So this video is about coming up with a protected list for Montreal. It's also about a kind of interesting strategy that might help to expand that protected list of 7, 3, and 1 in a way. So you can keep a couple of other players protected, and you don't have to worry about who's exposed, and maybe even be able to kind of direct Seattle in the direction you want them to pick at. Okay, so we're going to take a look at, I think I got everything I wanted off this list. Yeah, and the guys that you're kind of directing them at are obviously guys that won't hurt you too much if they get drafted, or won't hurt you at all if they get picked. Okay, so we're right into it. So these are the 2021-22 UFAs and RFAs that Montreal has. They include Thomas Tatar, Brendan Gallagher, Phil Deneau, Yoel Armia, Jordan Wheel, Charlie Lindgren, his name, Jeff Petrie, I forgot his first name for a sec, Arturi Lehkonen, KK, and Cale Fleury. And while we're here, shout out to all the members. We're going to shout out to NHL Hockey News Reports and Lee Max. They're my cornerstone members of the membership. If you're interested in memberships, head down to join. Click on that. It'll tell you everything. And we'll get right back to it. So these guys are the potential guys that could sign right now. So basically, well, in the 3 days after. So once that happens and they're able to sign, these guys here could potentially sign a contract that would avoid them having to be UFAs or RFAs. Now, in the case of, I'll go this way, Petrie and Gallagher and Tatar, they were rumored last season at the trade deadline, because they had 2 years left on their contracts, that they were rumored, well, one plus a little bit, to be the best options for the team to trade to get back the maximum return. Now, there are two good options again coming up to trade and get a good return. You might not get as much because of that extra year that a team would have had to have them under contract, so there'd be no term left on their contracts, right? They'd be signing brand new deals or UFAs. So those are two guys that could go, I guess, at the next trade deadline. So keep that in mind. These here are the guys. I wonder if I go a little farther over and go here. Yeah, these are the guys here that need to be protected. There's a lot of them. There's 21 guys that if you don't trade Tatar and you're not trading Petrie or anybody else, these are 21 guys that need to be protected. You got Drouin, Tatar, Gallagher, Byron, Domi. Domi if he's re-signed next season. Domi's a free agent. He has to be re-signed for in the offseason. Domi's coming up. Deneau, Armia, Lehkonen, Wheel, KK, and Evans. Same thing with Evans. Evans would have to be re-signed. I have a feeling they will, so I'm putting him here on the board. On defense, you got Weber, Petrie, if Petrie's re-signed, Alzner, Giroux, Kulak, Mete. Mete, too, is up for a contract in the offseason. Juleson, Fleury, you got Price, and Lindgren. Lindgren will be a UFA at the end of next season, at the end of this season. I'm not positive. I should have written that down, but I should. He's a UFA here, so yeah. So we got one more year with him, which is fine. But that means by the time the draft, he will be either signed or we're not signing him, one of the two. Okay, who do we keep from here, and who goes on to this list? And now there's 21 players here. We're putting 10 players on the list. We have to reduce it by 11. So remember that. We got to reduce it by 11. Now, I also want to say this before I forget, because I know I will. If you are a player that will just use Tatar because he's the first one I'm pointing at, Montreal has still got him and they haven't re-signed him yet, which is unlikely because, if you're not going to re-sign him and wait, you figure it's unlikely that he's still going to be there. He's going to have been traded at the trade deadline. But say that hasn't happened. You've got Tatar, and you haven't signed him, right? So it's kind of unlikely that the Seattles would reach out to pick up a guy like that. Yes, they probably would want a guy like that, but the fact that he's a free agent, and it would probably be a free agent within a few days of them picking him up, and they don't know for sure that he'd want to sign with them, I doubt they're going to go and do that. And when you got other players on the team, if you really want someone from Montreal that you can pick, that you're not going to have to worry about whether you can sign them or not. So you got to keep that in mind here too. So need to be protected again. Tatar, Gallagher, Byron, Domi. I went through that. So who are we gonna protect, and who are we not gonna protect? So let's try to sort of weed out the guys that we're not gonna protect. We'll start with the forwards. Actually, let's go over here. Goalie's pretty easy. We're not gonna try to protect Lindgren. We are going to protect Price. Therefore, that's why Price is already up on the board. I don't know if I'm showing it right. Price is already up on the board because we're not protecting Lindgren over Price. It's just not happening. I guess I can do this from here now. So, who strikes you as probably, for me, Wheel's not getting protected. I don't see why. Yeah, Julian likes him and all that stuff, but on this list, Wheel's not getting protected. Evans, even though he was just signed, I don't think he's getting protected. So now you've eliminated of the, I think it's of the 11 forwards that you have to bring down to 7, you've eliminated 2, which means you got 2 more. And it's not easy because you may say on here, Lecky's an important, Lehkonen, by the way, is an important part of this team, and I don't want to see him go. And you might pick out Byron and say, well, but Byron is also one of those important players that you kind of don't want to see go. But, I mean, if he went, I guess it's okay, but you really don't want to see him go. The rest now, Drouin, Tatar, Gallagher, Domi, Deneau, Armia, and KK, you can pretty much say that they've kind of got to be on this list. They're going to get protected. But it doesn't leave you any wiggle room. And why do I say that? That while, actually it kind of does with Lehkonen. You can take a chance that Lehkonen, and here's the strategy. You can take a chance that Lehkonen really wants to stay in Montreal, which I really think he does, and that he won't be tempted to re-sign with. No, okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to take a step backward. The reason why it's not going to be Lehkonen, it's an RFA. An RFA you don't really want to expose because he could be forced to sign with the new team. So with the strategy that I'm about to announce, I'm getting into it in a really poor way. And I apologize for that, but we're getting to it. So the strategy I'm going to talk about here is you take one of these UFAs. We're going to start with just one. In the article that I got this from, they used Gallagher and Deneau as the guys that they were talking about, but I think it was a bit clickbaity just to get people to read, which will work for me. But it can be done with any of the UFAs on the board. You take one of the UFAs, or two of them. I think you're going to need to do two of them. You negotiate a deal with them, and you don't sign the deal. It stays in the drawer. You don't sign the deal. You let them go right up until the draft, unsigned and unprotected. It's like I had just said, it's unlikely that Seattle will take a player like that. So you're in essence taking two of these forwards, and yes, you're leaving them unprotected, and you might be chancing the fact that, well, maybe I want to play in Seattle. And by leaving them unprotected and being able to sign them once the free agency period starts, and they'll be free agents, and you can sign them to new deals. Once that happens, then you can protect these other guys that you want to keep, Byron and Lecky. So let's take a look at how we're going to do that. So we're going to say, I guess just for the fun of it, because that was what the article said, we're going to leave Deneau and Gallagher. So we'll cross them out, unprotected. Right? We got Wheel, we got Evans. These are the unprotected. So we got Drouin, Tatar, and this, I kind of, am I right? It leaves 7, 2, 4, 6, 7, yeah. I kind of said in another video that Tatar is going to probably get traded, and I kind of think if they're going to trade one of Petrie or Tatar, it's going to be Tatar at the trading deadline, but for this video, he's not getting traded because we don't know. We got Byron. We got Domi. Armia, Lecky, and KK. So these are your 7 protected forwards, with Gallagher and Deneau scaring the crap out of Habs fans. What do you mean you're not signing Gallagher and Deneau? I'm only putting Gallagher and Deneau because in the article that I got this from, that I got my idea how to do this, that's who they called to be the guys that you negotiate and put under in the drawer and wait. It could be, like I said, it could be any of the non-RFAs, so they got to be UFAs. So it could be Tatar, that could be one of them, and who else is there with it? It's an RFA. Anyway, whoever. That's what it could be. So I'm picking Gallagher and Deneau. So don't beat me. The point is, don't beat me up and say, Gallagher, you got to sign him. Are you crazy? You're not going to sign him. Yes. And one of the reasons is I believe Gallagher is the kind of guy that you can negotiate the contract and be damn sure that he's going to honor that and come back and sign it. And I think Phil Deneau, same way, wants to stay with Montreal. And I think that's the case there. So, yeah, you got to be kind of confident in that. But that's a way to keep your forwards protected. So you get these guys that are protected, but you're going to sign Gallagher and Deneau again when free agency period starts. Now, let's look at defense, because defense, obviously, is kind of where you're going to steer Seattle's to pick from, unless they want a different kind of prospect. And I don't know what else there is on the team, who else that they could pick from. You're kind of steering them to the defense, which is probably why Victor Mete's kind of been named as the guy that Seattle's going to pick. And I wondered that when I heard that first time, I think it was last season, and I was like, I don't see how they can get there that far ahead, but now I guess I know why. So, who on the defense are you going to protect? Who are you not? Definitely, you're not protecting Carl Elsner. Now, if they would only take Carl Elsner, all our problems are solved. Please take Carl Elsner. I doubt they're going to take Carl Elsner. But, you know, if they're looking to get to a certain level of floor with the salary cap, Alsner with his 4.6, whatever it is, 4 point something million, you know, they might take him. And, you know, on a team, if they want to win, maybe they don't. But if they don't really go, they're going to want to win. They're not taking Alsner, unfortunately. Okay, that's out. Next guy that I don't think we're going to protect is Brett Kulak. He signed 2 more seasons, so he'll be signed. I don't think we're going to protect Kulak. I don't know if they're going to reach out and take a Kulak. But now we're down from um, eight guys that we have to protect on defense. We're down to 6. We need to find 3. You know, you could say Weber. Listen, if you really want to get rid of the Weber contract and you think they'll take him, the thing is, you know, like if they don't take him and that gets rid of the big contract and the cap hit and all that, but it's your captain, so you want to lose your captain. They might want to pick him up because it's an instant captain for the team, and it's a cap hit that they might want because it gets them up to the floor. So I don't know, but do you leave him exposed? And then what if they don't take him and you've left him exposed? Does that piss him off a little bit? Do you want Shea Weber pissed off at you at all? No. But do you want to piss off your captain that he was left exposed? I don't know if he's going to get pissed off. I don't think he's that type of character that would, but you never know. So I really think you're protecting Shea Weber. Because remember one thing about Shea Weber's contract. If he retires early, there's no problem for Montreal as far as that, how it affects the cap. That's on Nashville. It's on Nashville at the end of his contract. If he retires early or he's injured and he can't play, it's on Nashville that has that cap hit, not Montreal. So there's no pressure there in keeping him. Remember that about him. So Weber's going to be on your team. Jeff Petrie is a UFA. Jeff Petrie, if needed, could be one of those guys. Again, if you need an extra one, you can. So we're not going to talk about Petrie. He could be negotiated with and leave him unsigned. Ben Sherratt is interesting. Ben Sherratt, but he's going to have 1 year left on his contract. I think he's proven he's the kind of guy that Montreal would like to keep. I think so. Depending on how much you could re-sign him for, you could sign him for a couple of years. And remember, with the salary cap staying a bit flat or staying flat for we don't know exactly how long, Sherratt might be willing to sign here for 2 or 3 years, like his 3-year contract, at not a great amount, not a huge raise, and we could keep him. I think that's what they'll probably do with him, and I think Sherratt's going to get protected. So we got Weber, Sherratt. We got one open spot here. Petrie, Mete, Juleson, Fleury. This is where it gets a little bit difficult. Do you protect Petrie and leave and expose these guys and lose one of these guys? I think that might be a really good possibility, and it avoids having to have him unsigned through all this, and you don't know what's going to happen. It wasn't the way I was thinking of going with this, but it kind of makes a lot of more sense. Basically, because look, if you lose one of these guys, and I'm kind of leaning towards Juleson to keep and protect, and it might be that way. They might do that thing with Petrie, keep Juleson, but I don't know. I'm gonna say we're gonna keep Petrie on here, and we're gonna leave these 3 guys exposed as well, right? And personally, I think these 3 guys, why I circled them is because I think if you're really focusing Seattle to some part of your roster, I think that's where you're focusing now. And I think this is probably where we're going to lose somebody from. So unless Montreal can actually make a physical deal with them where they're going to ship them off another draft pick or something, if they don't take, maybe they take Kulak. And maybe they could do that and say, okay, listen, we're going to give you 2 draft picks. You're going to draft Alsner. That could happen. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I cross my arms. That could happen. So I don't know. So I'm going to say, I was leaning towards we're not going to protect Petrie, but we're going to protect Petrie. So kind of saying here, in my own babbling way, and if you stuck with me for 20 minutes, this is the protected list that could potentially be when the expansion draft for the Seattle's. I'm kind of leaning towards Sasquatch. I really like that. Seattle Sasquatch, that's just great. And then that hunting Bigfoot show can go out of business because then we found Bigfoot. It's in Seattle, so it's not a problem. So yeah, so when the Seattles or Seattle Sasquatches or whoever is Kraken or whatever, when they draft, this should be what our protected list looks like, with potentially two guys on this side here who are unprotected, but contracts are in. Mark Bergevin's top drawer, waiting for the draft to happen, and then 1 week later or within a week, somewhere in that timeline, and then he just signs them as UFAs. So instead of extensions, they become new contracts. That's all. And I'm not sure if that means if you were thinking about signing them for 8 years, you can't, and you have to be 7 years. But I don't know how many 7, 8 year contracts we're going to see in the next little while the cap stays low anyway. So, anyways, this is my strategy for how possibly we can sort of skirt around the rule of the 7-3-1 and keep and not lose anybody significant off the roster, and kind of direct them towards where Montreal might want them to be picking a player from. So there you go. If you liked the video, if it made any sense to you, please give it a thumbs up. And while you're on the way down there doing that, there's a comment section. Please leave me any comments about any of this or whatever I just spewed out there to you guys. Tell me what you think about it, what you would do differently, what you might agree on, and you can do all that in the comment section down below. And please, while you're down there as well, check out the memberships. There's a join button. Check it out. You get perks and all that kind of stuff, and it's not that expensive at all. And yeah, check it out down there. And that's it. So thanks for watching, everybody. I really do appreciate that. Please stay safe out there. Wear a mask, because we want you guys coming back to watch more videos on Talking Habs. So that's it. So once again, thanks for watching. Peace out, and I'll see you next video. Bye, y'all.